Hi friends, we drove downtown for a party up here on the rooftop, but I've always been intrigued by people's opinions on the walkability of Seattle. So I saw this Seattle Times feature the other day about this guy who spent his free time building out this platform that maps the walkability of your city. And I was really fascinated and sent him an email to learn more about how you can cross-reference different amenities, like if you want to be close to a pub, a library, school, whatever you want. And we're meeting at High Spot in Madrona tomorrow. So that's what this video is about.
My name is Nat Henry. I'm the founder of Henry Spatial Analysis, and I'm a professional geographer. So I make maps and run spatial analysis studies for building healthier and more sustainable places. I started on my own about a year ago, and I've mainly been doing consulting half-time, and the other half I've been building this product Close, which I hope we can talk a little about today.
So can you describe a little bit about what you built, what Close is?
Sure, yeah. So it actually came out of a personal project where, I mentioned I live in Capitol Hill, which is a pretty dense central neighborhood in Seattle. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know, if I was to move somewhere else in the city, where else I could live without having to rely on a car to get around everywhere. I started thinking about it, and my requirements were really, I wanted to be near, there were 5 or 6 amenities like supermarket, library, convenience store, restaurant, where it's I really want to be within walking distance of all these things. Mm-hmm. And rather than have something like a metric where you've got some number out of 100 that says here's how walkable it is, it's I really want to know that I can walk to all these things, because it's if I'm close to 99 out of 100 of my favorite things, but I'm not near a grocery store, I still have to get in the car. Yeah. So basically made this tool that shows the sort of intersection of all those walking distances. Mm-hmm. And so you can select the amenities you're most interested in, be it supermarkets, bars, coffee shops.
I just love that you were where do I want to move? Let's build an entire database. Whatever, I'll figure it out.
Well, it was kind of funny. I started off, and it was very much a little slapdash thing. And I showed a couple of my friends who are also geographers. They're you can do better than that. So it's all right, I'm gonna do it.
Challenge.
Yeah. And that was it's very much, it's a combination of I'm interested in the result, but also I just enjoy making maps and love seeing it. I think there's such a thing about people zooming in on their neighborhood and saying oh, this is this totally resonates with me, or oh, that's so cool that this is different than I thought. So yeah, I like it for the making of it too. So I actually come from sort of a nonprofit academic background, and so a lot of my work has been on disease modeling, and so looking at thank you, where there are where there's higher disease burden tuberculosis, things like child nutrition, where those could be sort of more equitable across the country. And so then ministries of health would take our lab's results and then use that to say, okay, we need an intervention here and we need to sort of direct more resources here. And so I was doing that for a lab at UW for about 7 years. And then I got a message from one of my old friends and coworkers. And basically he has been working for USAID, and they had sort of a strategic shift where they wanted a lot more of these maps. And so he said, nice. As much time as you want to give me, I will take. And so decided that was the right time to take the leap and half work on sort of more domestic walkability stuff, and then focus on that the other half. So I'm sort of excited for this project too, because it's now we've got this huge database of walkability across every block in America, and so we can ask questions what is the thing that brings attracts a supermarket to open up in a neighborhood, or what are the when people are moving to a neighborhood, what are sort of the 3 things that are attracting them the most? So I'm excited to do a lot more of that stuff as we.
Oh, that's really cool. My mind is expanded. I was just thinking purely from a real estate perspective, but it's that's just because that's my background. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of cool because I think there is that overlap too of it seems there's this shift where it's people want to live in cities and live in more walkable neighborhoods, and so it's there's kind of this. I think there's this nice synergy between we gotta build housing in more walkable places, and then people will move there, and then there will be more amenities, and it's sort of hopefully this virtuous cycle. Yeah. So hopefully you get to be a little part of that.
So when people ask you, is Seattle walkable, what do you have to say?
So I think it is, it's definitely more walkable than most American cities. And that's really a function of how dense we are, because we've been growing so much over the past 30 years, and really you're sort of constrained by Washington and the Sound. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is true that we do have some really good walkable pockets. But I think the other thing is that walkability is really something to think about on a block by block or neighborhood by neighborhood level. So I'd say we have some neighborhoods that are walkable to basically any amenity you need.
What is the future of Close, do you think?
So I think there's all sorts of things to build on top of it. My background's actually in spatial statistics, so I'm really excited to start digging into the big questions of like what allows for walkability and what builds vibrant neighborhoods now. We've got this database now that is, walking, biking, transit times to every block in America. So I'm really excited to start asking questions like, what brings a new business to the neighborhood, or what causes people to move from, mainly car trips to mainly walking trips. And then on top of that, I'm also excited to have more sort of custom tools. So things for people who are power users, like being able to add your own custom destinations, being able to commute or calculate your commute time from work, and maybe even little like reports for homes to say, how far you are from your home to each of these different destinations.
Are you currently monetized at all?
Not monetized at the moment. I just have been focused on making it sort of the best tool possible, including improving the user experience and making sure that the destinations are all up to date. And once we get to that point, I'm hoping to sort of expand a little bit as a company and then start to build those tools on top. And some of those will be paid features for sort of premium users.
So you live in Capitol Hill right now. I always tell people that that's the best car-free neighborhood. Do you think so?
I think it's definitely one of the best. I think that sort of downtown Ballard is great, North Beacon Hill is great. And it sort of seems like the features are you want to have all those things around your neighborhood, and you also want to have like a really reliable access to other neighborhoods, mainly downtown. So for example, this neighborhood is going to become a neighborhood center in the next comprehensive plan, which is sort of like the 20-year plan for the city.
Yeah.
And as part of that, it's pretty likely that the 2 bus lines that come through here, the 2 and the 3, are going to get their frequencies updated.
Oh, nice.
And so at that point, you might sort of have all those ingredients together that you would make this, a really walkable, go from, pretty walkable to like very walkable and sort of accessible to the whole city.
Where does all of that data come from that you're using for Close?
Yeah, so there's all sorts of open data sources that I use, and some of it's from government sources. There's actually this new data source called Overture Maps, which is a collaboration between Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft. And they're trying to combine basically all of their locations to create sort of an open source competitor to Google Maps. And so those combined are trying to sort of compete against Google, but they're releasing all their data to the public. And so I'm using some of that and sort of vetting it and building on top of it. So I think some things that are great about what makes this neighborhood so walkable. We just walked by a little area that had 3 or 4 like bars, restaurants, cafes. That was mainly on 34th. And now we're walking down along, I think, Spring Street, and we just passed by an elementary school. On that same block was a library and a convenience store. And what's great about that street is that the area along the elementary school is actually a safe street during the day, so it doesn't have car traffic.
Oh, nice.
And then there's also a couple little diverters, and so cars tend to sort of like get diverted back out onto 34th rather than going through the area with all the kids. So sort of just like a nice little place that is also feels very sort of safe and kid-friendly as well.
Yeah, that's great. And we're walking to a grocery store right now. And
That's right.
Is super pleasant walk just through the neighborhood, trees.
Cute tree-lined streets. And actually, I think on this intersection, this might be sort of the perfect sweet spot in this neighborhood. Because we've got all these beautiful tree-lined streets, but we're about 5 minutes from the grocery store. 1 minute to that park and elementary school and library, and then like 2 minutes to all of the destinations on 34th. Yeah. So it's like, you could do a lot worse than finding here for your
So this intersection, this is the place to be.
Yeah, right here, yeah. And of course, like 2 minutes from a bus stop as well. So you could have it all.
Have you, since building Close, have you talked to city planners, or have they reached out to you, or what's the interest been like?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have reached out about their own sort of specific interests. So I've reached out to, for example, groups at housing authorities.
Oh, yeah.
And they're interested in things like, what new properties could we build? What are our current properties accessible to? And they're also interested in things like, social services or cooling shelters. Like, these are things that are sort of more like specific to their interests.
Yeah.
And then I've also talked to a few city planners who've said, it's useful for them, or actually just hearing in the zeitgeist, something, it'll come up at a city planning meeting and I'll hear about it secondhand.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really cool to me. We can actually take a little right here.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, whether I've actually got a tutorial online showing how to do this, with your own custom destinations just in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for people to just like use the concept more and more, and to hopefully get good feedback and continue to improve the map.
Okay, I'm really excited to see how Close evolves and what comes of it. So thanks for getting together and talking about it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would love to see people using the map at close.city, and if anyone has any thoughts about their neighborhoods or questions, I would love to talk to them.
Awesome. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Big hill.
Big hill. So I just said goodbye to Nat and walked back up our route, up the big hill that we went down.
So I guess if you're going to the grocery store, you have to get back up.
Which brings up a good point. Like, this close platform takes into account the hills.
Oh yeah, I asked about bikeability off camera, and it is cool how it takes all that into account.
Yeah, which, you know, it's important to take it into account. Seattle's pretty hilly, so you do need to factor that in. We just want to do a little debrief because I thought that was so interesting. I'm so excited to use this tool. One thing that really jumped out to me, you know, people are asking us all the time what neighborhoods are walkable, where can I live car-free? Well, walk score is great, but Nat pointed out, you know, it spits out a number. You get like a 92%. That seems really good, but what if that 8% is because there happens to be no grocery store?
Yeah, then
within
it
walking
kind of
distance?
invalidates the whole. You
It's
have to get in the car to do most of your shopping.
Yeah, it's sort of worthless.
So I reached out to Nat just thinking about my industry, the real estate industry, and how, oh, it's so cool that you can find housing based on walkability. But he talked about like his background is in with government work and epidemiologists and like city planning, and there's just so
Saving
many
lives.
so many uses for this beyond just finding a cute little neighborhood to live in.
Yeah, but speaking of cute little neighborhoods, I did love how there were some like hidden gems where, you know, like these neighborhoods that you don't necessarily think about as being the most walkable. Like here we are in Madrona, which gets comes out as super walkable. What were some other ones that he mentioned?
In West Seattle.
Oh yeah, there was an intersection in West Seattle that really jumped out. So I think a big takeaway is like you don't necessarily just have to focus on Capitol Hill, North Beacon Hill, downtown. If you want to be somewhere walkable, you can really kind of take a look at these more micro neighborhoods. He even threw out, he mentioned Bitter Lake, which is like a North End neighborhood that we're really familiar with. And like, that kind of surprised me. Apparently there's kind of a intersection or small area there that it comes out as super walkable. So I love that.
Yeah. Great. So if you're looking to make a home in Seattle, send me a message. Let's work together. Bye.